Hey everybody, welcome to RPG Help Desk. This week it actually
Yeah.
worked. Unlike last week, for completely unknown reasons, it decided to OBS to go, no, not today. Uh, which is extra cool because today I'm here with Kendo from Kobold Press and some other things. So Kendo, please say hi and like what you do around the internets.
Hello, hi. My name is Kendrick or Kendo, whichever you prefer. I use any all pronouns, and yeah, I'm the media production manager over at Kobold Press. I'm also an actual play producer, a game designer, writer, a filmmaker. Technically, I say technically. I have. That's what I went to school for. Um,
That's,
I said like technically. I'm like yes, actually, I did.
you
I
have a
did.
degree in the thing. That
I,
I do
yeah,
feel like that does count.
that's you're right. That's kind of the deal. Um, but yeah, those are the things I'm most known for working for Kobold Press, and then also my actual play podcast. I would say those are the two most relevant things in this moment. But I think all of my stuff kind of leans a little bit towards horror, so maybe they're all relevant because I guess they give me different perspectives in which I engage with horror through play in TTRPG. So yeah, sure, why not? It all matters. It's all relevant.
Yeah. And that's, you like horror. I like horror. That's why today's topic is on horror, which
Yeah.
I now have. Oh, I got a point. Like it's way past. I've,
Is it past me?
it's past you.
Do I gotta
So
duck down?
I can't reach my hand through your camera to point at it though. Maybe I can find some extension that allows that.
I'm sure OBS is plenty.
Uh, but yeah, so we're talking about horror today. So if anybody has questions about how to do horror or just anything horror related for tabletop RPGs, please put them in the chat. We'll go over them. We have a bunch of stuff that we want to talk to directly about it too, including to start with just our favorite horror RPGs because there's a bunch and I want to share the ones I love and I want to hear about the ones I haven't played yet. So what
Yeah.
what's like one of your top ones?
I'm going to start off with my favorite horror TTRPG, and that is Abnormal by Avery Alder.
Ooh.
It is a a
Two person?
two person. It's a two-person TTRPG about body horror, where one person plays the person being changed by the horror, and the other person plays the thing that is changing them. And so it's this kind of tug of war
Oh.
of like there's like the game plays in phases over four, in which case the way that the horror manifests evolves over time and the way that it affects them evolves over time, and they can only make certain actions during certain phases of the game. And so the horror is trying to like progress the transformation and isolate them away from people, while the person is trying to make connections with other people or further diving into this thing that's changing them and like leaning into like that kind of isolation. And it plays with like the different ways in which like that kind of corruption can be like viral in the way of like being around a person who is changed by this thing could possibly change you as well. um it's really really cool. We played it of as like a side episode in season one of our actual play podcast. um and I fell in love with it. It's so good.
That's ooh. I hadn't heard of that and oh my gosh, do I want to play it.
It's so good. And it's like it's just like a nice like intimate experience because
Yeah.
it's two people just sitting down and like talking about this story of this person who is just being slowly more alienated from their body and like the world around them and like perceiving the world differently. It's so good. I'd highly recommend.
Okay, and that was Abnormal by who?
Avery Alder, the creator of like The Quiet Year, one of the writers of Dream Askew, Dream Apart, like creator of the Belonging Outside Belonging system. Avery Alder's my favorite game designer. She knocks it out of the park every fucking time. IMO.
That oh my gosh, I love that idea. I just watched The Substance last night. So the idea of
Oh,
like this duality of, you know, one person trying to get control, or person trying to maintain control during a transformation is, it's fresh in my head. So
it, it was, yeah, it's so good. The story we told with that game is very near and dear to my heart, and I think one of my favorite things we've it's up there in some of my favorite things that we did on the podcast.
yeah, and that's the Stories Untold,
Oh,
Tales Untold,
Tales Yet
Tales
Told.
Yet
Yeah,
Told. Okay,
yeah, Tales Yet Told. Wherever you get your podcast, we were doing it as like as a part of the main seat. So the I think I told you a little bit about this, where our first season takes place in like we were using Babes in the Wood first edition, and it's kind of over the garden wall esque, but if instead of like a pastoral America, it was like an 80s, and one of the players is playing someone who had turned into a weasel, had like fallen to the stranger's curse and had turned into a weasel. So we already knew that this ends with them being a weasel, but we like changed the ending mechanics of it basically to say how reversible, if at all, is this transformation for you, is like the different end states of the game. So it was super interesting using it as a way to tell the backstory of a character that we had already been very familiar with.
that's really
Um,
cool.
yeah, it was so good.
Oh my gosh, I like that a lot. Okay. Uh, there's one that I've been playing that I really like, and that I'm actually playing it tonight. Monolith, which is the
Ooh.
sci-fi version of Carrion, and
Oh.
yeah, and one of the things I think makes it work really well with horror is, um, you have, it's, you know, it's very low HP. Like you could have like 1 to, you know, I think maybe like 10 HP, and a gun
Mhm.
will hit you for like 2d10 at least. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not like, oh, you could wear some armor, you could do some stuff, but like, and also there is no rolling to hit, which I think is really interesting. There is, if you try to
Very
hit something,
OSR.
yeah. So if you try to hit it, like you're going to succeed. Same if it's pointed at you. There are things to increase or lower damage based on like if you try to punch someone but you're underwater. Like, okay,
Mhm.
that's, you know, or like I was hanging one arm from a tree trying to shoot something, and that was
Yeah.
considered, you know, oh, okay, this is going to be harder, so it lowers the damage. So, but the thing is with that is leveling. So when you hit 0 HP and below 0 HP, you do not die. You take the difference below 0 HP to your strength score,
Mhm.
and then you have to roll below whatever that number is to stay alive.
Oh,
Eh,
okay.
So you can do that multiple times and will probably be okay. But there's always that
Mhm.
threat. The other really
Right.
interesting thing is there's no XP. There is only a scar system, and scars only happen when you hit 0 HP exactly. And then you get a scar, and it can be a good thing. So you are ultimately trying to skirt to that line, but
Yeah.
not go too far past it.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I love because it really that sounds like it like super incentivizes like just go for it. Just
Yeah.
like get into it. Just do the thing.
Yeah. And there's like other ways where it's, oh, okay, well, I didn't hit 0 HP, but I got more money, so I can buy better armor. I can buy this, or, you know, so there's other ways to incorporate
Mhm.
being, you know, a pseudo leveling system, like getting better at it without an actual level. But yeah, the actual level part only happens when you hit 0 HP exactly.
That's really
Yeah,
good.
it's
I
really cool.
That reminds me, actually I'll make this one my next one. Uh that reminds me of Liminal Horror a little bit. Which is also like OSR game. So like every attempt to attack something or something's attempt to attack you automatically succeeds, so on and so forth. You have three stats. You have strength, dex, and control, which is like a general like mind stat. And stats go all the way up to 20. You roll a d20 whenever you're trying to like succeed on something. You're trying to roll under your stat. And you also have like a hit protection, which is like your hit points, but every time you take damage, it comes out of your hit protection first, and then it starts coming out of your stats. And once one of your stats hits zero, you were not necessarily dead, but like you can't continue to go on, and like you can decide what that means based off of what stat hit zero. But
Mm.
also the weird and horrible things in the world can change you and try to force you, like they'll force you to make control like saves basically. And
Yeah.
if you fail them based on like the amount of damage or something that a thing does, you can get like these weird, like I can't remember what they call it in the game. They're like corruptions or like some kind of, I can't remember what the game calls them, but like they can give you weird powers. They can like change like different scenarios can have their own like baked in Fallout roles, I think is what they're
Okay.
called. Um, but it's like it's just a really interesting, like it's generally like an eldritch horror game, but you can kind of do whatever, and it's really good if you're like trying to do like a more modern setting, or you can kind of put it wherever because the stats are pretty malleable, and making equipment is as simple as like how much damage does it do, how much does it cost.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. um and I don't know, yeah, I've been playing it a lot recently, and it's really malleable, which makes it very fun, I think.
That's
Uh,
cool.
pl- Plus the ability to, I don't know, something about being changed by the horrors you experience is interesting to me, I guess.
Oh, very much so. That's such a good mechanic to have in a horror game. Is yeah, you have to either advance or gain a fear or something. You have to evolve in some way, good or bad, based on what you've experienced.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's really good. Have you I've mentioned it on stream before, but I'm curious, have you played Dread?
I've played Dread once, and it was
Same.
fun. I
Yeah.
liked it. I think it's one of those games that I think I would play more if there was a better way to play it online, because then I would have all of the ways to play it, but I
Mm.
need a Jenga tower that is like relatively that's like relatively uh hmm, actual have like actual physics. I don't really know what the tabletop simulator Jenga blocks are looking like
Yeah,
nowadays.
I don't think I'd want to do it with a mouse and keyboard of like, oh, let me and I'll move my camera so it's like a pull back, but it's you have to be lined up for that angle to work. Yeah, that sounds fun, but not necessarily in a good way for horror. Fun in a
Yes.
let's do something dumb kind of way.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Nick the OG coming in. Sup nerd to
Oh.
you too. Do you have another one? Like, what's one more that you're like, if which abnormal is? You sold me on that one, but I'm curious if you have one more.
Yeah, let me think. Um This is interesting because I play a lot of games that aren't explicitly horror,
Mm-hmm.
and I make them into horror by like just the scenario that the thing is into.
Keeper Dace asked a question right on that, so keep that in your head because we're gonna get
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
using some of that.
Yeah. Okay, then a game that's explicitly horror. Ooh, Heart, The City Beneath. Um
Oh,
if you've heard of I think it's Rowan Wilkins Decker? I can't remember who
Ron
publishes it.
Rook and
Yeah,
Deckard.
Rowan. Yes, yeah,
Okay.
Rowan, Rook, and Deckard, I think it is. But it is like a spiritual sequel. It's kind of just a sequel of Spire, which is written by the same people. But Heart the City Beneath, so okay, well, Spire is a fantasy like city, like huge towers, so on and so forth. It's got some questionable lore, in my personal opinion, but underneath it is like basically like an inverse spire and like an entire world underneath that is like this changing eldritch world of like dark fantasy, and at the not quite the center of this place but somewhere in this space is this thing called the heart, and the heart is what is like kind of influencing a lot of the weird horror stuff that's going on in the world. And every character, it's this really interesting like weird horror fantasy because the getting instead of leveling up, you take
Hmm.
advancements in the game,
Okay.
and each of these advancements are like basically like when you choose your class or you choose like what path you're on. I can't quite remember the terms they use. Um, you get like all of these weird abilities, such as like there's one class that is you are a being that is infested with like a hive, basically like you are acting as
Ooh.
a hive for like these insects or strange
Yeah.
creatures, and as you're getting abilities it's kind of moving you further in the direction of the dehumanization of being turned into this thing. And the vast majority of the ends of every character is getting so powerful that they become a god, wipe themselves out of existence, summon something that wipes them out of existence, become some immutable part of the like it's like these grandiose, epic, horrific like transformations that these people undergo because again this thing popping up being corrupted by the world around you and the powers in which you get like fundamentally changes you usually for the worst in heart. And it's like just like the weird fantasy and lore from it is just it's like it's just so good. It's so good to just read through even.
That's a rare sentence about RPG books is it's good to read through.
It's good to sometimes there's some out there that are actually just good to read.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what, this was fun.
Rare, I think, but not gone completely. Usually it's like, here's what you need to know. Just read this and I'll tell you the
Right.
rest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Oh man, I absolutely have to play Abnormal. That sounds too fun.
Yes, please do. Let me know when you do because oh, I don't know too many people who've played it, but understandably so. It's not the most popular of Avery Alder's games, but
It does seem
I
pretty niche as well. Like
right, it's a two-player game. You got to
mhm,
be really into body horror
right.
and like exploring like hey, what does it mean? Like what does the self mean?
Mhm.
Especially if what if all of us are technically ships of Theseus? At what point do we stop becoming like at what point are we a different thing or are we always ourselves?
Yeah, see, I'm absolutely sold on that, and I understand why other people would go, "No." That's I wanted to swing a big sword and be a
Right.
hero.
I play a lot of games where people are just not the people. You're not the guy. I'm sorry, and I don't know if anyone's the guy. Maybe you succeed, and if so, that's super cool. But it's because you tried really hard, and the world kicked you over and over again until you made it to the finish line.
All right, we've got some questions, but I really want to ask this one first by Discordia because it plays
Yeah.
into just the theme so well. Of what are some good methods for one to invoke a sense of creeping dread?
Ooh.
Yeah, if you need a minute, I've got one off the dome.
If you got one off the dome, please. I think I have an answer, but I need to formulate it.
Okay, cool. I think one of the things that I love doing and that I love happening when I'm playing RPGs for that sense is the surprise and the unexpected. And
Mm.
there can be that in multiple ways. Someone acts a way that is unexpected. It's like, oh, why they do that? Um, I think mechanically, this is a really good way to use something that the players have established or think they have established and then change it. So like having
Mhm.
a something hits you and normally, oh, I've been hit, I take HP damage, and you could be like, no, pick something on your character sheet and cross it out, you can't use that anymore. And that could be like your movement speed, a particular skill check, a feat or ability you have. Like that is oh, I get hit, I take HP damage, now you've got something else to deal with. So that
Mhm.
that level of shock of being like, oh, I don't know what to expect.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's super. If a GM did that to me, I'd be horrified.
well, good.
Because
That's the
you're like,
play.
oh, that's what it did immediately. What does it do as it goes on? Like, how does this get worse from this? I think from me taking it like going from like because I think your answer is like very rooted in like how can we help make the mechanics
Hmm.
empower like this sense of dread. I think for narratively or like not even just narratively because this isn't just about narrative. This is about the way in which you as a GM describe and talk about scenarios. Um I think I get the most effectiveness out of give like bringing out like a sense of like dread and like something that's like mounting over time
Hmm.
is really taking advantage of people's perspectives and the
Mm.
bounds in which someone's perspective like there are things that similar to like kind of there are things that they don't know, there are things that they don't know, and then there are things that they know that they don't know, and knowing which of these different things are at play at any point in time is really useful. As an example, I was running a game. This actually for the podcast. There is an episode in it where they are trying to have a conversation with this girl who is like somewhere in between a big spider and the girl who was turning into a big spider. And there's like there and most of them are like wrapped up in her webs and are like put against a wall, and then one of them are like sitting like wrapped up on a table in front of her having like this kind of just like a really casual conversation genuinely, or not I shouldn't say a casual conversation, it was tense, but it was like it was cordial. They weren't like nothing, she wasn't upset with them at that point, she was
Yeah.
trying to work out a deal. But the other characters are mounted against this wall, unable to talk with, unable to be a part of this conversation. And there's also there's another sack on the wall, that was already there when they got there, and it's like squirming every now and then. But I'm that's not the focus right now. We're talking about this conversation, but I will keep coming back to like this thing has stopped moving now, and like like they
Ooh.
have no idea what's in this. While they're also like there's this tense conversation about is this big spider girl going to eat us? Are we going to live? Like,
Hmm.
or are we going to make friends with her? We don't know. Also, there's this lingering thing that is basically a symbol of her capacity to do violence,
Yeah.
that is constantly here drawing attention to itself amidst this conversation. And
Yeah.
even after conversation ends, things go good and the characters get let down from the wall. One of the characters had noticed something in the room that looked like the like left like discarded clothing of like a friend of hers
Hmm.
basically, and she goes and like saying that like early on like during like the conversation like yeah, you look over, you see the clothes on top, it this looks like Edgar's clothing. And but she's tied against the wall, she can't do anything, she has to wait until she gets let down, then she goes over, she sees it, confirms it, asks, hey, how did you get my friend's clothes?
Hmm.
And then the prestige, the reveal, she goes over to the sack, she opens it up, and boom, out pops the friend of her the body of their friends, which is like this, oh my god, you killed our friends. And then you make it, you just keep mounting, like you think you know what this thing is, but you
Hmm.
still don't quite know yet, because you think it's just a sack, and then you think it's just your dead friend's body, and then you're like, oh, it's actually my friend's body filled with spiders that's now animating,
Oh
and now
no.
it's still not attacking us, it's still super friendly. But now we have to deal with our best friend was killed by this person that we didn't know that before we made this deal, and technically only one of us made this deal, and it's like you're just controlling and manipulating what information do you know, what
Hmm.
information don't you know, and how can I lead you slowly into knowing the information, but still always not exactly like make them lead them to expect something and then twist it at the last moment, which
Mm-hmm.
will then make them go, "Oh no, this is worse than I thought." So similarly to what you were saying, but like from a more narrative perspective, I guess.
No, I like that. That's a really good, yeah, because it's you need that mix of narrative and mechanical, and like
Yeah.
to if it's all just like oh it's surprise mechanics, but like the setting is, and then it's just your house, like that's not scary. And if it's like here's a spooky thing that always happens the same way, it's always gonna hit you for HP, it's always gonna be the AC, it's always gonna be this, you lose the horror of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that is a great narrative tie for it.
Yeah.
And really good build up. I love that. Mm. That sounds scary, and I love it.
Right? And no, sorry, you go. My
Oh,
brain was just gonna go on a tangent. Please continue.
so I was gonna bring up a specific thing, and Merithid, tell me I spell your name correctly. Said the dread of loss of agency might be all right, but actually removing it becomes not fun. And I think that's a really good point. The
Mhm.
threat of loss of agency uh, is very scary, and the ability that it could be removed, I think should can be on the table depending on
Mhm.
how everybody's playing, what everybody's agreed to, and such. Where it's like especially in a horror game. But I really like when that l- not even quite a loss of agency, but a matter of but this is what you want to do. So like I was playing a like you know extra dimensional horror game in the Arctic, monsters out, and like someone rolled on sanity and got bad, and we were like in the Arctic investigating a destroyed boat, and the GM was like, "Oh, okay, you have what was it called? There's a term for it, but it's you really like water." And it's like, that water looks really nice. Like you just wouldn't it be great to go for a swim right now? And that's putting it on the player of like, "Oh yeah, like here's what
Yeah.
I'm going to do." And then hydrophilia, yes.
Mm, mhm.
Thank you. Thanks, chat. And it's like, "Oh no, we have to stop this person." Like and it was fun because the player who got it didn't play it like ravenously going for the water. She just like started moseying on over and was like, start climbing over a thing. We're like, no, no, no. But then, which made it even better because there's that threat the whole time. And then at the
Mhm.
end, when we're like escaping on our boat as this thing is like swimming after us, and we're like throwing things at it and trying to dodge things that it's throwing at us, like, and nobody's paying attention to her, and she just walks right off the boat during it, and it's like
Yeah.
like it was such a good moment. uh
That's
and then another one of like how to deal with it in a monolith game. I got feared, my character got feared, and it was like we were in a fight, and the GM was like, you like you want to leave, like that is your new top priority, is you want to leave. How do I do that? What constitutes leaving? Am I going to try and grab somebody and take them with me, or am I going to run on my own? Like those were all things that were up to me, but I knew I had to leave. Staying was no longer an option.
mhm.
And then I could play into it one way or another for the character, for like being scary, for trying to be helpful, for whatever it was. And so yeah, that not really loss of agency, but that twist of agency.
Mhm. Especially because, like, you are telling the story along with your players, and
Hmm.
so there's a certain degree to which, like, assuming they're bought in telling the story with you, you can guide them slightly in that direction, right? Like in the same way you were saying, where it's like, yeah, man, something about this water feels really good. Like
Hmm.
your players want to have fun. They'll lean into it. They'll do it, assuming that they're actually bought into telling the story alongside you.
Yeah.
But like that kind of moment will be so fun for all of them as well afterwards to be like, oh man, do you remember when XYZ? And like you can have that, like, what was going on through your mind? Like, how are you as the player, exploring that? I think that inviting the characters, inviting the players to do that alongside you helps bridge the gap of well, you are being manipulated like through some kind of magic or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still the way you play that out is your
Yeah,
choice.
exactly. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And
Go ahead.
I was going to say another thing about what you were saying in your story, like the threat of like the water is bad, right? At that point
Mm-hmm.
where where the GM is like, "Oh, the water feels good," and they're walking towards it and you're like, "Whoa, no, no, no." The threat being so obvious builds dread
Mm-hmm.
because the characters know, the players know at the very least, this is not a thing we should be engaging with or enacting with because something bad will happen.
Mm-hmm.
But the situation is forcing them to do it. And so that builds a natural dread of just the characters being like, we don't want to deal with whatever, like, we don't know how bad it's gonna get. We don't know how like what it's gonna end up doing to us, like once we get there. Like showing them the knife will build more dread than hiding a knife and then stabbing them out of nowhere. You'll get shock that way, but not dread.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The shock is more of surprise. Dread is that level of like, oh no, I understand what could go wrong. I think
Yeah.
a really good example, like in the Aliens. So like the first time the
Mhm.
Marines go to the xenomorph nest, you as the audience understand what's happening. If you've seen the director's cut, you know what happened to the colonists. If you've seen Alien, you know what is in there waiting for them, but there's just more. Like, so they're going in not knowing, and you're going, no, 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 no. You don't understand. You can't shoot them up close. Don't bring the shotgun. No, it's going to splash acid on you. So, like, yeah, that's ratcheting that up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's the anticipation.
Mm-hmm.
It's the knowing exactly what's going to happen, but having little control over stopping it from happening.
Yeah. And Incarnadine, thanks for gifting a sub over to Kendo.
Oh, thank you.
It's very nice of you.
Appreciated.
There was one thing. Oh, yeah. Incarnadine mentioning, too, I do really like the idea of permanent effects, sort of the older sanity loss from Call of Cthulhu. Yeah, and like, I think that's a really good thing of kind of what we were talking about earlier of, yeah, you have to react in some way to the things you've experienced. Maybe good, maybe
Mhm.
bad, maybe semi-neutral. Maybe it just changes you in some way that's not necessarily like you gained a superpower or you now have less HP total, but that's something about it fundamentally changes you. And someone brought
Mhm.
up an Adventurous Night, Sigmar getting a metal hand because if there was one point where he's like, "Oh, I have a teleporting arrow, and there's this huge chunk of platinum, and I want to pull some of it off. So if I hold on to it and then someone stabs the teleporting arrow, I'll teleport and the things I'm holding teleport with me. So this chunk of platinum should come with me." And it was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's try that. And then he fails his check and rips his hand off. So his hand is still on the platinum and he's there
Oh,
where he's supposed to be with the teleport with no hand. And then he got a metal
oh.
hand.
See, but that's character growth.
Yeah, and it's come into play multiple times because of it, and it's beautiful.
So good.
It's really, really fun. Uh, Discordia, if that answers your question, let us know, and if it doesn't, also let us know, because we want to know. Uh,
Yeah.
Keeper Dace asked us, how much of a horror game is done through the mechanics versus the story setting? I'm honestly curious about your opinion. I feel like, to me, the difference, oh man, there's like three elements of it. There is
Yeah.
the mechanics of it. Like, how do the mechanics work in telling a horror story? Where I feel like something like D&D 5e or Pathfinder, and I love Pathfinder too, they are terrible at telling horror stories because they're a power fantasy. Like,
Mhm.
you have so many options, you have so much available, you are constantly getting better. Combat is always incentivized in most scenarios. Like, it doesn't work well mechanically with horror. I think there is that sort of dread in the atmosphere
Hmm.
of like, ooh, okay, oh, the anticipation, the consequence of this, like that all that might have some mechanical bearing, but also has narrative bearing is one element. And then the actual story itself, like how is that conveying dread and horror? And I feel like all three of those need to work to be horror,
Mm.
which is hard to explain. So I don't know if I'll have a better answer. I'm going to try and work through it. And also, I want to hear your thoughts too and bouncing this around.
I I want to start this off by saying that there are many different kinds of horror. Um and not all of those forms of horror are legitimately scary.
Hmm.
Or are scary to everyone. And uh like as an example, like slasher horror, right? Like if you've watched like recently like Nightmare on Elm Street, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are parts of that that are scary, but it's mostly just a blood and gore fest.
Mm-hmm.
And that blood and gore, I mean, I guess like sensibilities at the time, that was probably like, oh my gosh, oh, so much, it's coming out of the bed. There's so much blood. Um, but even now, like we didn't stop calling those horror movies just because they stopped, scaring us in those specific ways. And I say that because generally I agree with you that D&D and like 5e types like Pathfinder, Tales of Zion, and so on and so forth, and a lot of like power fantasy games aren't great at building a sense of dread. I wouldn't go so far as to saying that they aren't good for horror games,
Mm.
specifically because horror as a genre exists outside of just being something that builds dread or is like something like that. Sometimes a horror like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, or like,
Oh,
sometimes the horror is just in, oh my god, in the description of things, and like, oh my god, there's just so much blood, or oh, that thing that it did is horrifying, right? um I think if you're trying to tell a horror story where the players as either as protagonist of your story, if they have more or less agency in being able to deal with the thing that is the horrifying circumstance, whether that be an eldritch being, whether that be a horde of zombies, whether that be a serial killer, so on and so forth. Um, so I think that like D&D, Pathfinder, 5e, so on and so forth are good for horror games that are more about the aesthetics of blood, gore, viscera, so on and so forth. But when it comes to a game that is more of like dealing in like a genuine sense of dread for the character, for the players who are playing the game as
mm-hmm.
well as the characters, I would agree that it's not generally very good. It gives a it frames narrative in such a way where everything is an encounter, a thing to be dealt with that can be either overcome or failed. And because it puts it in that kind of black and white, succeed or fail, it does tend to move towards action being the way in which things are dealt with. So I agree with that. Um, as a general feeling about, do does the horror from games come more from the actual system itself or the narrative? I think I think it depends on the kind of horror that you're trying to do, genuinely. And I ultimately agree that there has to be, in many cases, a synthesis in mechanics and narrative to be able to get whatever effect that you're looking for. Um, and trying to figure out like, okay, well, how much do I need to find a game that gives me like this specific like mechanic to that, like that emulates the feeling I'm trying to
Mm.
like do I need to play a game with like sanity mechanics, or like do I need to play a game that where there's like long-term bodily corruption, or like something that runs the gamut, right? um it comes down to like, what is you as a game master, and your table as also people trying to help tell the story. What is your goal? And like, when you sit down and play a horror game or any game, you sit down and go, okay, what is the feeling we want to evoke in this? Do we as players want to actually feel scared at points in time? Do
Mm-hmm.
we want to feel that just narratively? Do we want to feel that mechanically? Like that's a conversation to have with your table of like, how much do you want for other things to be helping support the narrative the story that you're
Mm-hmm.
telling together. So always talk with your table. That's my
Always.
bare minimum.
Yeah.
Talk with your table and figure out what works best, because maybe that'll also change from game to game. It's like, this time we want something that's going to give us like that extra mechanical push, or sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to play a 5e game and have it set in like a bad world, like whatever works best for you is ultimately what it is. And I think it can be a mixture of whatever works best for all of you in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can agree with that. Oh man. All right. First, I'll revise. I think you are correct. You can do a horror setting in those that is themed horror without necessarily the uh, things that I really, I really like about horror games. Uh, in that, and that, yeah, you can do it. So I will revise and stand with you on that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Because
You made a great
I,
argument.
ultimately it comes down to I think you can use the aesthetics of horror, and that still constitutes as a game that is horror, but it might not be the game that is going to make you feel scared or feel dread
Mm-hmm.
or like be like on the edge of your seat,
Yeah.
because agreed, the mechanics just aren't really there to support that kind of experience.
Yeah. So I think on the how much the mechanics versus storytelling matters, just as you said, it depends on the type of story you want to tell. Because if you do want that, oh my gosh, so much blood, then yeah, do it in a Pathfinder's game and be like, oh my gosh, so much blood. I guess we better contribute. Like, and that's can still be, unsettling or whatever. I think I don't want to fake answer this, but I do think the more important thing, maybe not more important, but one of the important things, whether you are looking at it from the mechanical side or the narrative side, is the element of consequences. That whatever they're doing is going to matter. Maybe good, maybe bad, but that they're not just going to try something and then be like, and then like move on, and there's no repercussions, no
Mhm,
reward, just
mhm,
yeah, it happened. And there are ways to do that mechanically, with kind of like what I was talking about with in Monolith, where it's like, oh yeah, you want that risk and you want to
mhm,
hit zero exactly so you can. So like you're going to be doing that stuff, and like you can do it narratively, where yeah, you can have part of the character's personality change, or like their belief changes, or they now are more cautious, or more headstrong, or more reckless because of the thing that happened.
mhm.
And I think in that, like, make sure that there is a level of like reward in that, or a level of consequence. Like, don't just be like, oh, you changed character's attitude, okay, cool, like, and then never
It's
address
got
it
to mean
again.
something.
Yeah.
It's got to mean something.
Yeah. Like, maybe they narratively they meet someone who knew them a long time ago and is like, wow, you're really different now. Or like, kind of mechanically, where you could be like, you found an item that has a property that leans into that new element that they've changed into.
Hmm.
Like, so I think you said it, though. Like, that was a little more dressing, a little more icing on the cake, but I think you said it on like the what kind of thing you're going for will determine whether it's more mechanical or narrative.
Yeah, that's that's games.
That is that you heard it here. That's games.
That's
That's
games.
Keeper Days, does that answer your question? Oh my gosh, there's so much text in the chat now, and I've not been
there's,
keeping up.
there's so many.
There's so much. I can't stop to read all of this. I'm so glad it's here though, because that means people care, uh, which is great. but oh my gosh, there's so much.
Yeah.
Um, I think
Ooh,
Mirthid said something. Oh, was that?
no, I also found one, but you can do yours
Oh,
first.
okay. Mirthid bringing up, I think it's important that players, even if the characters may not, need to always know that there is some path forward and they can act towards, which is what Kendo is speaking to now. My group has had campaigns where we just felt hopeless because we all missed 6 rolls a session back. And we're just twiddling our thumbs, waiting for our GM to decide to move the plot forward. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's important in all games, but I do feel like it is extra important in horror because there is horror, suspense. Um, they both rely on a level of a ticking clock, and that
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily it has to be. And there's 1 second left, but you have to be aware of you don't have forever. Like you got to do something. Something's got to happen.
Sometimes do use a ticking clock though. It's really fun.
Oh my gosh. Quick side tangent. On a Mothership game, which is another great horror.
Mothership is good.
Yeah, Mothership. If you haven't played Mothership and you want to play a horror sci-fi game, highly recommend. There was a game that I was playing, and he was like, "Oh, you're going down to a subterranean or an underwater lab, and they're taking this long elevator down. It's like ka-chunk, and it stops, and the door is partially open, and you can see into it." And he's like, and he sets the setting and is like, all right. And then he hits his phone and sets it on the table in front of everybody, and it's a timer counting down from 10 minutes. And we're like, what's that? And he's like, don't worry about it. And we're like, okay. So we're just going about our day, asking like, oh, we run into the janitor. Hey, what's going on? This blah blah blah. And then the timer beeps, and he goes, hey, excellent. All right. You start to feel sick to your stomach, and you look at your hands, and they start to spaghettify, and you are pulled apart at the molecular level, and you find yourself in the elevator, and the door is partially open, and then resets the timer for 10 minutes, and we all take 1 point of stress.
Oh, that's so
Yeah, so we're
good.
caught in a time loop of
That's
literal
so
10
good.
minutes and are trying to every loop, and we know we have a when you reach 20 stress, like every time you reach stress, you have to roll a d20, and then if you roll, I think it's below it, you're okay. If you roll above it, then you take some additional effect. And if
Yeah.
you have 20, you'll die. Like that's when you get the 20, it's like, well, you've stressed yourself out, you're dead.
You're too
So
stressed. Heart attack, you die.
yeah, like something will happen. So it's like we have the ticking clock on the table of like we have to figure out how to do this in an efficient manner. And
Hmm.
also we have a literal, if we do too many things, like if we take too long, we're just not going to win. And we
Yeah.
have a general idea. And like when you do something that like hurts you, that also gives you stress. So we were also, by doing things, lowering that down from 20. So it's not
Yeah.
just 20 turns. It was great. Oh,
That's so good.
yeah.
The time that I used it, again for my podcast, um, was there it was the second time the characters were pseudo meeting the like big bad,
Mm.
where they were brought into this school called the Sublime School for Lost Children, for kids who get lost in the Sublime but don't have a place to be. We'll find a place for you. And they were trying to escape, and the big bad of like the god of this world basically showed up and said, "You're the kids who called me on the phone the other day. That's really crazy. What are you, come on, stop doing what you're doing, just chill out, like calm down." And the Walter the weasel, who was basically taunting God, who was like, see, I'm gonna get these kids out of this world, you think I'm not gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it. I'm willing to bet I'm actually smarter than you, God. um and then the stranger, God, in this particular case, went, okay, that's real interesting. Well, Walter, if you think you're so smart, I'm gonna give you 5 minutes before I kill Dakota, another one of the PCs. And like vines started wrapping around them, and then I
Oh.
stopped the game and I put a real 5 minute timer and I said go.
Oh.
And I have never seen them so stressed before at that point in time. I hadn't seen them that stressed immediately. Like, oh, okay, so we're gonna go. And what was so wild was it genuinely was as simple as going up to Dakota and like just trying to rip off the vines and like
Mm.
do some checks. But because I added the timer, they thought it was so much more complicated, and they started genuinely panicking of like, we don't know what to do. Oh, we need to go get help. And it's like time is ticking, and no one has said that they are going to run over to Dakota and just start pulling off the vines. That was the last thing that they thought to do. um Sometimes it's as simple as putting a timer for a very simple task that
Mm-hmm.
immediately makes them start to panic, and like the sense of dread, of anticipation, of, oh, I know exactly how much longer I have to be able to complete a task.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't do it in time,
Mm-hmm.
the thing, the the block's gonna fall. I
Yeah.
couldn't think of an analogy for some reason that would fit, and I was just stumbling over my words.
the There's so many things. The bomb will go off. The whatever. Like, yeah, you have that
Hmm.
timer. Oh, that's really fun.
Right?
Yeah,
Because then it's like you need to start, just, hey, just tell me exactly
mhm.
what you're doing. Just do it. Don't think
I've
about it. Do it.
I've done that in non-horror settings where I need players to move faster.
Hmm.
Where it's like you've got this amount of time and like stuff's happening. Like you gotta decide what to do because if you don't do it in this amount of time, this thing, what you don't want to happen is going to.
Yes, exactly.
It's really fun. Um, okay, that brings up a thing that I absolutely wanted to talk about, and then we'll get back to a few more questions. Uh,
Hmm.
was the role of hope in a horror setting? Because and I'm curious about your opinion on this because I feel like if you do not have a chance for success, you do not have horror. Like as small as it might be, as like scarred as you might be getting out of it, but there's the chance you get out of it. As all of that, like if you know everything is 100% boned, why even try? Like, and that might be a good
Hmm.
point to like end on, where it's like, oh, I I know it won't work for me, but maybe I can get someone else out. Like so then you fall on the
Hmm.
grenade, you blow up the cave on the wrong side so everybody else has a little extra time to get out. Like that kind of thing. But like
Yeah,
yeah, I feel like you absolutely have to have a chance for success in order to be scared.
I agree. And I think the biggest thing for me, for um when it comes to telling horror stories, is be very willing to be flexible on what does success look like,
Mm, mm-hmm.
or what does hope look like. Um, because yeah, no, 100%. Sometimes hope is, I'm going to get away from this serial killer, right? If
Mm-hmm.
that is like, if the story is there's a serial killer going around who's chasing me and my friends, hope is that me or more of us will succeed. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that success means I don't get to live, but I make sure a friend lives at least a little longer,
Mm-hmm.
right? um Sometimes, if it's more of like, let's say you're in a more like grim dark kind of world, right, where everything sucks, there are liches going around flaying people, and that's like the norm or whatever. Hope in that world probably doesn't look like, the liches are gone. The liches stop playing people. The sun is shining. We change the climate. The clouds are gone. Like, hope to probably doesn't look like that.
Mm-hmm.
But hope might look like, oh, making sure that I get my family to safety.
Yeah.
Like, hope might look like finding a connection, like having someone respect me for the first time and
Mm-hmm.
like show me respect or whatever. Like hope and success are subjective things based on one's perspective,
Totally.
and in a situation that is horrible, sometimes you need to shift your perspective of winning doesn't mean everything is fine at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Winning means that you were able to succeed at doing something that you want. And sometimes the thing that you want is just to survive into the next day. Sometimes it's to see your friend smile. Sometimes it's like hope can be whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I agree. Hope is a thing that I think makes horror feel like it's they are stories worth telling rather than like just like uh huge fests of like sadness and like and misery.
Yeah.
Like right, like there's the hope is that there is a light somewhere that can be found. And all, like if we think of Cabin in the Woods, right? Spoiler for this over decade old movie. Um, but the end, no one lit like the world ends at the end of that movie, which
Yeah.
is actually the worst possible fail state that could have happened as far as how things are set up in that world. But it's a hopeful end because the system is the thing that is horrible. This cycle of bringing people into terrible, life threatening situations to appease some god, right? Or some like group of gods or entities over who knows how long.
Mm-hmm.
That's the horrifying thing. Not all of the monsters. It's that if we did succeed and we sealed the monster away, this happens again next year to people all over the world.
Yep.
The hope is, and the win, the success is, we have stopped the cycle. The world will end if that's what it needs to be, but no one will be forced to do this stupid manipulative game that is making it like actively traumatizing people, like small isolated groups of people all over the world.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a yeah, I feel like it's a good read on that and that different layers of hope. Absolutely. To that point, Beach bringing up, or if you all die, at least you make it in a cool, satisfying way. Yeah, sometimes, especially, and
Mhm.
there are games like that. What is it? Is it the Area or Area X, where it's a play to lose? Like the idea is you're going to die, and you're telling the story of how.
Mhm.
Um, and like yeah, that idea, the zone. Thank you, Rat Beach. I knew you'd know.
Oh yes, the
Um,
zone.
so like that yeah, that and I think that's important to keep in mind as both as the DM and also as the player. And Deeb's also bringing up, yeah, sometimes winning is stunning the killer before they get you. Yeah, where it's like, you know what? You are gonna get me, but I'll give you this. I'm gonna be petty about it.
Mhm. You're
Um,
gonna remember me.
yeah. There was one there was some like anthology show and there was someone who there was like some sort of murderous cannibal on the loose and they were killing everybody in a police station and the last officer was alive and was like I'm gonna get got. I think they had magic powers or something and so it was like I'm gonna get got, you know, oh no. And so they hide in the closet and the person breaks in and they kill him and they're like ah ha ha I win, I killed everybody, and then they're like ugh, and fall over dead. And it's like a little pan or something. You see that the person, the last one who was alive, ate rat poison before they were got.
Because they thought they were gonna get.
So they were like, I know I'm going to die, but maybe I can
Oh
take them out
no!
with me.
Oh no!
And it's
See,
like, yep, that scenario of, all right, you got your petty thing. You got your one hit in. You got, you know, or in that case, revenge. You got took them out too, unfortunately with you. But yeah, like that idea of what hope is should be
yeah.
malleable and situational.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad just to be like, yay, someone agrees with me. Not that that's like a hot topic that a lot of people disagree with, but like I feel like it is a under talked about element of horror that is
Yeah.
incredibly important.
Yeah. Agreed.
Uh, I feel like this is a pretty tough question. And so I'm not sure I have a good answer. So I definitely want to bounce this around with you. So
Oh.
Incarnadine asked, how do you manage players who always take these types of things to the absurd, trying to make horrible consequences into the ridiculous? Um, and bringing up the question of can you take a game that's ultimately goofy or slapstick, Paranoia, for example, and really lean into the horror of it? So kind of like two different things on that. But yeah, first
Yeah.
one, how do you try to manage a player, as it's put, who wants to be absurd with like horrible consequences in this, oh, we're in the xenomorph nest, and be like, all right, time to get real wild with it. Um, because that's tough. I guess the first part is like, is that okay? If again, kind of talking Tucker and Dale versus Evil, where it's like
Mhm.
horror comedy is a thing. If people are on board with it, like, hell
Yeah.
yeah, like go for it. I'm assuming in this scenario, it is like everyone else is taking it more seriously, and this one person is really trying to just be Looney Tunes
Yeah.
in everybody else's anime.
I mean, my answer to this is like it's the thing that I said before. Talk to them, right? The person who is doing this is a person, a player at your table, maybe a friend, maybe a stranger,
Mm-hmm.
right? There, I think, is a tendency for game masters are in many ways the facilitator for a game, right? So they are kind of like in charge in some ways for making sure that people are having fun, so on and so forth. I don't necessarily think that that is a role that should solely be in the hands of just the game master, right? Because that's a lot of weight to put on one person and a thing that is a collaborative game. But ultimately, like, if you, again, you as the game master are a player and you should be having fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so assuming that you pitched like, right, you pitch this game, hey gang, we're gonna play Call of Cthulhu. I really want like there to be like, I'm trying to go for like this kind of darker story. I want to keep it serious and grounded. And you have a player who's like going goofy with it. Take that player aside and be like, hey man, what's going on? Like, I'm trying to set up a tone. Like, this is my vision for the game. This is how I pitched it. And everyone seemed on board. Is there a certain disconnect? Do you not realize that you're doing this? Like, or is it like, or are you not that interested in this style of game? Like, have that conversation with them. Because sometimes it might be that that player might think that it's okay that they're doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, if they are being a dingus about it and they're doing it on purpose, have that conversation with them. Like, hey, this is the thing that I'm trying to do with my game or the story right now.
Yeah.
Come on, man, like play into it. And if they don't, I, talk about the consequences of like what that means, right? Like you again as the game master are a player and your fun is kind of a part of that. And so if you and the rest and like you can open up that conversation with everyone like, hey, are we all in agreement on the tone and seriousness and like how we feel about this game? And like the kind of story that we want to be telling. So that everybody is in agreement with. And that's one of the big reasons why session zeros are really important because you
Mm-hmm.
can kind of axe out the potential for this very early on in a session zero where you're sitting down and like, okay, this is the game, this is the system, here's kind of the vibes of the story I'm going for. We can talk genre, we can talk about like themes and things of that nature so that you don't get halfway through and someone all of a sudden is like goofing around and stuff and it's like
Mm-hmm.
we talked about this, we
Yeah.
already had this conversation.
Yeah, and Mirthid brings that up about, is the Sessions Bureau supposed to set expectations? Absolutely. Not 100%
Mm-hmm.
foolproof, but I think session 0 is as important as session 1. Like, you need to set those. Um I totally agree with what you're saying. I think another thing when talking to them is that's very important is like, okay, here's what we're going for. Everybody seems to be on board, all that. I also feel like say, "Hey, what do you want out of these actions?" Because like they're doing
Mm-hmm.
them for a reason and they're trying to achieve something. Find out what that something is and then you can help them achieve that maybe in a different way, or be like, oh, okay, I get it. So can we tone this part of it down a bit? And then,
Mhm.
but now I know what you're going for with this. I can lean into that in the resolve or something, and
Yeah,
allowing that to inform you of how to interact with them and what they're going for, and help them be more on board with the tone and how they can interact with you and the rest of the players.
absolutely.
So
It's
yeah,
conversations.
yeah, very important. Like
Mhm.
the it's not the only thing you have to do, but it is something that you have to do all the time. And for nearly every scenario, there's also and talk to the player or talk to your players.
Mhm. Mhm. The whole game is a conversation.
Yeah,
These are
absolutely.
just extensions of that.
Yeah, because it's cooperative storytelling.
Yeah.
And the other part of that, bring up game ultimately goofy
Oh.
or slapstick and really lean into horror. Hell yeah. You could absolutely. I mean, again, I'm a huge fan of horror comedy. So like I want that in some of my horrors to be like, yes, lean into this. And that's very much I feel like even before we are talking about like the difference between mechanics and tone, I feel like that one is almost completely tone. Like
Mhm.
if you know there is like what's it called? Die Laughing is a comedy horror uh RPG. I don't think there are many others that are specifically set up to be that. Um
Yeah.
but yeah, I feel like that's a thing that definitely leans more to the tone, and that if that's the thing you want to set that up. Yes,
Yeah.
the bread. Yeah, exactly.
I think I ultimately agree in that you can 100% you can.
Yeah.
It does require a little bit more work on the people playing the game
Mm-hmm.
to lean it tonally, narratively into horror.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this recently because I'm planning on running a one shot soon of the game Pig at a Wedding, which is like one of it's in like there's this book called The Ultimate Micro RPG book, or Book of Micro RPGs. I can't quite remember. And it's got like 30 or something, like 1 2 page RPGs in it, and one of them is Pig at a Wedding, where it's like a 3 to 6 player game of people going to a wedding and trying to sneak a pig in. And they roll for like different traits that the pig has, they roll for different traits that they have, and like relationships with people at the wedding and stuff. So it's like real, like it's like comedy, like drama. It's like, oh no, I ran into my ex at this wedding that I'm trying to sneak a pig into. And it's like it's stuff like that, right? And me being me, there was a part of me who was like, man, could I make this horror in some way? And then I had the thought of, what if the people bringing the pig in are being controlled by the pig to sneak it in, and the pig wants to be in for a
Ooh.
reason? And then that completely shifts what kind of story we're telling,
Yeah.
because there's still like the fun, like, oh no, my ex, and then like going to the pig and then like trying to like sneak the pig like across the hallway, and then like I'm imagining like stopping, like slowing down the scene really quick, like as you open the door and you lock eyes with the pig, you find yourself drawn into it, and there, and like just like you start describing things really like soft and like soft, like like there's something wrong with this pig and I think it might be malicious, but I don't quite know. But oh no, oh they're bringing out the big cake, I was supposed to put the pig in the cake, I gotta find a different. And it's like I think you can switch back and forth between those two things. It's really about making sure that you and your players are willing to put in the work to commit to
Mm-hmm.
allowing it to be goofy, and then once things get grounded in horror, being willing to swing like back and forth in those directions,
Mm-hmm.
which takes practice but is very doable.
Yeah. You learn the pig is mind controlling, and you're like, oh, I need to take out this pig. And then you have everybody else being mind controlled going, no, you aren't. And it's like, oh,
Come
okay.
on, we got to
This
get the pig. What are you talking about? The priest is walking. The bride is walking down the aisle. We got to get the pig in there. So you can, but be willing and be prepared for what that swing is going to feel like
hmm
and how you manage the swing between those two things.
Absolutely. If that answers your question, let us know. And if it doesn't, also let us know. Because we got a little time left, so I want to make sure we get to this question too from Keeper Dace, saying, "How do you deal with running a game in a known IP where the players are expecting things? In general, it seems like horror relies on characters not knowing they are in a horror setting." Uh, if you got something off the dome, let me hear it because I got a few things.
I would say that in order to get your I don't believe lack of information is necessary to get your players grounded in horror because I think because again talking about the idea of dread a lot of times is the anticipation of a thing that you know is going to happen, right?
Yes.
So let's say you were playing in the Alien RPG, which is we were just talking about Alien, right? Huge IP, still making like everybody knows what Alien is. Heck, you could be playing the Alien RPG, which is baked in, means that the xenomorphs exist in this world.
And
You
they
can
will be
still,
showing up.
they will be showing up. You can still ground your characters in the fear of, oh god, a xenomorph might
hmm
be showing up, and it might, like, we don't know how it's going to show up. We don't know where it's going to show up or how it's going to become like a part of the story. But the players know that the characters don't. So there's this kind of double immersion that's happening of they get the joy of playing a person who doesn't know the bad thing is going to happen to them, while they get to be the people who are like, we know something bad is going to happen, we just don't know how the bad thing is going to happen. And sometimes knowing exactly like sometimes knowing that, oh, it's going to be a xenomorph we're going up against, if they are familiar with the xenomorph, they know how hard that is,
Yeah.
or have some kind of concept of how hard that is, and
hmm
all of the different ways in which it can kill you. Their knowledge of it doesn't make it any less scary.
Yeah. And it can, as you mentioned, build up that sense of dread because they know it has acid blood and that's bad. And they know it has a tail and they know it's stealthy and they know it can crawl through the vents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which to that, I feel like is a good way to present things that aren't in this scenario of the xenomorph, present things that aren't the xenomorph. So, like, it can be very normal things, like you hear something fall, like you hear a noise and have to go investigate. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just, some cereal fell off the shelf. Like, oh, okay. But like, oh, but you're thinking we're playing the Alien RPG, so that has to be the alien, right? Doesn't have to be. Also, other bad things can happen that are not the alien. And if you can make them think it is, hey, that can be really fun. Maybe a good way to be
Mm-hmm.
subversive. Um, Also, things that change within the canon itself. So, like in Aliens, I think most of the movies introduce a new type of alien that is different in some way. So you have the original xenomorph in the first one, which is rare.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one, it's, oh, there's a bunch, it's a xenomorph, but there's like a bunch of them. And it's like, oh, that's the problem. And it's like double psych, there's also the queen, and it's gigantic. And it's like, oh shoot, that's a new alien. In the third one, it's, came out of a dog and now it's super fast and very small, extra agile. Um, all of these things are, it's like, okay, well, what can you do taking whatever it is that they are expecting and hoping to find? If I'm playing the Alien RPG, I do want to fight an alien. If I'm playing Hunter the Reckoning, I do want to fight some vampires. So, what can you do in that expectation to then give them a pleasant surprise?
Yeah, 100%.
So that's how I take that. Also,
Yeah.
and uh, Another is going through. I really like in session 0 going over the reds, yellows, and greens. Red being things that players and you as DM, you are also involved in this, do not want to see. Like you're like, hey, which is hard no on. So I'm like, players torturing people. I don't want to be involved in this. I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be a hard stop if that's where y'all go. And it's like, all right, so we're not going to do that. Yellows are things where it's like, it's fine if it's in there, but we can't dwell on it. A very common one is like sex scenes. Like, it is fine if sex is being had. When it's about to start, you just tastefully pan the camera and cut to another scene. And you can deal with the aftermath or whatever you want. And then greens are the things players want to see. So that level of like, oh, I want to, like, I just want to crash a wedding. I just think that would be fun. I had a player who was like, my dad is a demon, and I want family troubles to be part of, the story. It doesn't have to be part of like the main campaign, but I want to be bothered by my demonic family and all of the things that get involved and all the things related to that. It's like, ooh, okay, yeah, absolutely, and I can be writing things down so that I know what to introduce. So
Yeah.
especially in a setting that is established, what do they want out of it? If you're playing, the Futurama RPG, do you want to run across the Planet Express crew? Like, is that a thing that people want? Like all that kind of stuff. Like, so you know what to do. And they might be like, no, I just like the setting. I don't care about that. It's like, cool. I don't have to worry about doing a Bender impression.
There is a Planet Express Planet Express Futurama RPG that came out in 2013.
That surprises me 0%.
Yeah, no, same. But yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. And even I would add um one more section in there that
Yeah.
could be helpful, especially when dealing with horror. I have a friend who calls this section like the edge section,
Mm-hmm.
where these are specific topics and themes that your players know could potentially be triggering in the way where they are dealing with hard topics, right? It
Mm.
could you could be dealing in a story where um I'm trying to think of a way to say the word without like you could be dealing in a game where like self-harm is a theme in which you are exploring narratively, thematically with your game, or so on and something, which is a very potentially triggering topic for many people. And so this could potentially, if this is, oh, this is something we want to explore, but we want to do it with caution. We want to make sure that we're having conversations and we
Mm.
understand and we're on the same page about how we want to explore it and where our bounds are before it gets too bad. This would be something that it's kind of like a green, but acknowledging that this could, if dealt in the wrong way, could potentially be bad. So tread carefully.
Yeah.
Not the same thing as a veil where you deal with it off screen,
Mm-hmm.
but something you want on screen, but you want to treat carefully and thoughtfully.
Yeah. That's a really good addition. I like that a lot. That's
And
cool.
it potentially very helpful for horror games
Oh,
where
yeah.
terrible, terrible things could be happening and so on and so forth.
And I think in horror, I know for me, like, part of it is that exploration of the edge. Like, there
Hmm.
is a level of understanding yourself, understanding the world, understanding so much in being uncomfortable. And that
Yeah.
for me, it's like, yes, that is okay. And that is something to express. I'm like, okay, here's where, and especially if it's, multiple things where it's like, here's why I'm feeling okay about feeling uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Cool. We are close to time. So, oh, wait, we got what? Larson just threw in one question. Maybe we can answer it. Uh, so Larson said, here's a question. How viable are isolated or at least infrequent episodes of horror within a campaign that's overall lighthearted? Oh, go ahead.
I think it could be very effective.
I agree.
mostly just because of the contrast. I
Mm-hmm.
think that horror, adding like moments of horror, this is a thing that I end up doing on accident a lot. Is we will be playing a game and it's not necessarily lighthearted, but it's not like a game that is horror, right? Where it's like, oh, sometimes serious stuff is happening, sometimes like we're joking around, we're having a good time. The players have adopted an NPC and it's like, oh, we're having a good time, yada yada yada. And then like one session happens where it's like things get real weird and real bad, or like or like I sometimes it's just I start describing a thing and then halfway through its description I realize I've now made this thing more horrible or more horrific than I was expecting for it to be, but I'm just going to lean into it now.
Mm-hmm.
um and it can be super effective. It can be super effective, um, because of the contrast of everything around it, and then it draws attention to itself. The
Mm-hmm.
players become locked into, oh, this is a thing that we weren't just doing, a thing we weren't just experiencing, and it becomes a very easy thing for them to become enmeshed with and focus on because of just how different it is
Mm-hmm.
in comparison to everything else.
I totally agree on all counts. Um, yeah, I love that little bit of like, ooh, okay, fear. Like in the same way, it's like, oh, you could have the wedding crashing, side quest or whatever, where it's like you're leaning into something funny.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like, oh, well, the whole campaign isn't a comedy, but like this bit was funny. And that's cool. Yeah, leaning into it the same way of like, oh, yeah, this is a little spooky, a little scary. Also, keeping in mind all of the same things that you went over in session 0, what people are looking for, what people don't want to deal with, and
Hmm.
knowing that you haven't probably done as much prep work with the players of what they're cool with in a horror setting. So be mindful of that. But yeah, I think it's great. Just like
Hmm.
if you have a little side quest of a murder mystery. Neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, contrast would make it fun. All right.
It's all about
Mhm.
depth of flavor of
Yeah.
your game.
You want a little sweet. You want a little salty. You want that savory. You
Hmm.
want that. You want
You want
that.
to mix
Mm-hmm.
textures.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a complete experience. It's a meal.
Yeah, play with the temperature. Like, okay, oh, well, what
Hmm.
about these two things mixing? That's a new flavor. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
chef's kiss. I agree with you. So that's it for time because we have to get out of here at a certain time. So thank you so much, Kendo. Uh, please remind people what you're doing that they can see that they should be very excited about.
Yeah. First, thank you for having me. Again, my name is Kendrick or Kendo, whichever you prefer. If you like any of my thoughts about horror, you want to see some of the things that I said in action. You want to experience an actual play podcast that's just as serious about its sound design as it is about exploring the game, like exploring the actual gameplay of the games that we're playing. You should go check out Tales Yet Told, an actual play podcast dedicated to telling stories at the intersection of queerness and horror using NDTTRPGs. You can find it everywhere that you get your podcasts at Tales Yet Told, and everywhere on the internet that matters at Tales Yet Told.
That
Uh,
matters. Yeah, that's an important distinction.
yeah, if you go someplace and you don't find Tales Yet Told there, I'm sorry. Maybe it's not a cool place to hang out. I don't know. And you can find me rambling about any of my special interests on the internet anywhere that matters at Kendo Makes Films. And also every Friday on Kobold Chats over on the Twitch and YouTube of Kobold Press, which is at Kobold Press. It We do it every Friday at 2 p.m. Central Time, where I talk about Tales of the Valiant, other 5e stuff, mostly Kobold Press things. And we just it's a good time. I get to do this, but it's like about the newest, like last week I was reading through the old Margrave, which just came out, which is about like ancient forest that's really weird, and it's got a bunch of new
Ooh.
subclasses and spells, and I was just like, yum 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 yum. Yes, I'm eating good. So yeah, you can go find us over at Kobold Press as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kendo. This has been a delight. You should come back on and we could talk about a completely different topic or related one. It's up to us, really.
I would love to.
All right, sweet. Well, then we can do it.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for coming. This is always a delight. I will have actually let me go ahead and click this. And this should be the playlist, and this will be up on it soon. Probably within a day or two. And that's all the RPG Help Desk stuff. So Rexicon Jesse on Blue Sky and everywhere on the internet where it matters. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being a part of Second Wind, and I hope that you all have some great RPGs coming up soon. Bye.
Bye.